So I'm Mathieu Van Bel. I'm learning evangelist at MySkill Camp, and I also have 15 years of experience also as a team manager, small team and bigger teams. Antoinette is also present here today.
Hi everyone, Antoinette. I'm digital learning manager at MySkill Camp, and I'm helping our customers to build a learning culture into their company, and really happy to be there.
And so today we will have an interview together with Stephanie, but we had quite a small problem today, and so we had to, well, Stephanie could not make it for 12 p.m. right now. So what we did is that we just registered the interview earlier today, and so you're gonna watch the replay of this interview that was registered just 1 hour ago. So yeah, we will get started first with a small introduction about MySkill Camp. It's going to be short. So hi Mathilde, hi Jason, thanks for joining. Okay, so well, just a short word about MySkill Camp. So MySkill Camp is a company based in Belgium, active in the UK, France, Benelux. And that's about impact learning. So what we try to do is we just don't want to be a technology provider, you know. What we are trying to achieve is really help our customers succeed by deploying a learning culture, always-on learning culture, which requires to, well, have some enablement into the company. So being able to make deep change, because you can still believe in the culture if you don't have a sponsor like in the suit. It's going to be difficult. And if you take this together with the best contents from providers that we offer through MySkill Camp, but also contents that you would create in MySkill Camp, so combine creation and curation, bring this with the right technology, and we believe that this is what can make your learning and development program successful. So that's it about MySkill Camp. Now, what we will do is we're gonna watch this interview that we had earlier today with Stephanie. Okay, so just give me a second. I'm gonna share this with you. So.
And don't hesitate to ask your questions in the chat, and we will answer to all of your questions after the short interview that you'll see through the video.
Yeah. Okay, so just ask for your questions on the chat. We're going to answer them just afterwards. And now, well, let's get started with this video. Hi, Stephanie.
Hey, Mathieu.
So thank you for being present today for this interview. So maybe let's start this webinar about employees who don't want bosses, but they want coaches. Let's start explaining why we picked you for this interview today, Stephanie. So basically, you have 3 roles today. You're a coach, but you're also working as a talent manager, so you know how difficult it could be to get managers on board sometimes. And you're also trainers. So coach, trainers, talent manager, that's already quite diversified. But on top of that, you're also doing assessments. And you have an experience in very different companies. So from very small startups up to very big companies, managing, well, working together with different levels of management. So sometimes team managers or the middle management or top management. And also in different countries. So you've worked in Germany, in the US, and today we're in Belgium, I think.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so for all these reasons, all this huge experience, very diversified, that's the main reason why we wanted to have you on board today. Thank you for joining.
You're welcome.
And so, well, on my side, so I'm Mathieu Van Bel, and I'm learning evangelist. Antoinette is also present today.
Hi everyone, I'm Antoinette, Digital Learning Manager at MySkill Camp, and I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so let's get started. And the first thing we're gonna do is define some concepts. So because we're gonna talk about coaches, managers, and let's get started with this very basic question. So Stephanie, what's a coach?
Yeah, for me, it's a very good question because the word coach is used for God and everybody in the world today. It feels like, and when I first started looking at coaching and at coaches, I actually met somebody and he said, "Well, you know, a coach, it really comes from the Middle Ages, and it is what you can see in the slide, because it was a carriage that was used to bring the prince or the king and the queen from their palace to a place where they wanted to be." And that's really what coaching is for me. So bringing people from where they are today to where they want to be. And I think the where they want to be is really important, because if you want to develop somebody, then you also need to keep in mind what it is that they are motivated to do and that they really want to do, because otherwise it might be a bit more difficult to coach them.
Okay, so a coach will help the coachee to define what his or her destination is.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and if I look at it, you know, a coach compared to a mentor, like the coach will ask a lot of questions, he will advise some things. But if I look at it from a mentor standpoint, a mentor is actually somebody that will be more experienced and that will share his or her expertise with the person. So if I, for example, I sometimes have young people ask me if I can mentor them, and generally I mentor them on topics that I am very familiar with, and we discuss a lot, but it's not a coaching approach, but more a mentoring approach.
Okay, so a coach is not especially a specialist. He's not the one with all this wisdom. So this other picture that we see on screen, he's not this person with all this wisdom necessary, but he's gonna help you get where you wanna be, help you define where you should be, and help you get there. So I guess possibly a coach could even collaborate and get some mentors involved.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's actually the ideal picture. So the coach would propose to the coachee, well, who is somebody that you respect or that you look up to, and that person could then become a mentor. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we had a small summary of this. So basically, a coach will take you to your chosen destination, and he's into this questioning attitude. So he will ask questions first, while a mentor would share knowledge rather than asking questions. And well, I guess in some cases it could be also that you do both, but just have in mind that it could be two separate functions. And so the team manager should be a coach.
Yes, indeed. Now, sometimes the team manager can also be a mentor, but it very much depends. Yeah.
Yeah, if he has the experience also,
Exactly.
the knowledge, the know-how, etc. Okay. So, well, let's get started with team managers then. Huh? So, well, the very first question is about, why is it important for them to take an active role in L&D, in learning and development for their teammates?
Well, I think there's a few reasons for that. The first one is that they are the ones that are closest to their team. So they see them on a daily level. They see where they have difficulties. They might see where they're really strong. They really have a good view of what they do. And they also see what they're struggling with. So, and using that knowledge to help them to develop can obviously be very, very interesting and very enriching. Now, of course, for that, a manager needs to take a step back and really talk to the person and find out what they are passionate about and what they might want to develop. And then from there, they can really go and do it.
Okay, so because of this proximity that there is, that makes them the best person to do this, to take this role. So,
Yes.
yeah, I can think, because I have this experience also myself as a team manager. I can think of like 360 assessment, you know. And when you look at that, indeed, I think that there are some people who are in some roles where actually they don't have that many interactions with people around them. So they always have interactions with their manager. So that's something which is constant. So I guess that puts really the manager in a strong position for that, even if that's very valuable to have this kind of assessment. While for coaching, could be better to get the manager involved first. Okay, and I think there's maybe something else which is pretty interesting, probably. That's also because they have access to the resources. So, I mean, I can see that team managers can sometimes approve training requests. They can have a better view on the business vision, the business strategy, can find better opportunities. So they can also have ways to really help make some change, take some actions in this context of a coaching.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's actually one of the important parts as well. So it's not just that they know their people, but they also know the organization, and they know which positions might be open or which projects might be happening at the moment where you could send one of your employees to learn a skill or to really get better at a skill that he or she wants to develop. And that's really the advantage, because if you look at developing people, you're not just thinking, okay, well, that person needs to become better at presenting, so we send him to a presentation skills course. No, it's more that person needs to learn how to better present. Well, we put him on the spot and give him feedback afterwards, for example. So it's really an approach of experiential learning, so learning by doing, which is something that I'm a big fan of and that I've been working with for many years, because if you put people into the situation, well, they will have the same stress level, they will have the pressure, they will have everything that is in real life. And then afterwards, they will get the feedback to really be able to improve even more than before.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, well, let's move on with the next question, maybe. Next question is more about, well, the fact that today we have managers who are already very busy. So, well, they're busy from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or sometimes more. So, okay, how to convince them basically to get involved, to still take over this extra role?
Yeah, and that's obviously one of the big challenges, because you're right, managers are already overwhelmed and they go like, oh God, and now I need to coach my people, and how am I going to do that? And at the first look, it seems like one more thing to do. But if you look at it from a long-term perspective, it's actually, you will actually gain time, because if you know your team well, you know what they can do and what they can't do. So you know who you can delegate to. And on top of it, if you coach them in a certain field that you personally might not even like, but they might love, then it might take a bit more time in the beginning. But in the long run, they will take the work that you have too much. And that's really important also for responsibility, because if you are a manager that likes to do things on your own and you don't want to overload your people or anything like that, well, that might be good in the beginning, but especially with the young generation coming on board now, well, they want to find a sense in their work. They want to do things that they enjoy. And if you, as a manager, are able to do that and are able to understand what it is that they want to do, and you can hand it over to them, then they will be more motivated. And on top of it, you have, as a team, you have collective intelligence, which will bring the team further, but also the organization. So in the first instance, it looks like a lot more work, but actually it will really help you gain.
Yeah, so basically, even if you don't look at the human side, let's say, well, that's an investment, but there's a big return on investment. So even just looking at the time, they're going to spend a bit of time at the beginning, but then in the end, they could even spare some time in the long run.
Yeah, indeed. And on top of it, the motivation of the people will really go up, because if you are used for what you're good at and what you love and what you think has a sense, well, obviously you're much more motivated to do that, rather than just doing your job as it was described in the job description because it's in the job description. So it's really feeling your team and using them where they can be at their best.
Yeah, okay. And so, well, it also means that we could even have, well, right now we have all this discussion and topics, this big topic about the big resignation. So a lot of people who leave their company. So it could even be a way to decrease the churn, let's say, having less people leaving the company because they would find a sweet spot for them into the company thanks to this.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, I think it's really, I always said as a manager, I want people to want to come and work for me. So because then it's really that you're a good manager. If you're not a good manager, people will generally not want to work for you. But if you are a good manager and if you are a coach, then that's what will make people want to come and work with you.
Okay, and there was a great question from Antoinette there also. So now that you can see all of that, how exactly can we market this added value for them? So how can we talk to the manager and try to convince them?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I would say think about what you would like as being managed. What kind of style would you prefer? And then put yourself into the shoes of your employees and think about what you would want to be, well, or how you would want to be treated. And if you do that, then you develop much more empathy for your people. And that way, well, obviously, they're going to get there. Now, obviously, there's no miracle, and it's not going to be, oh, now I'm going to be a coach and it's all going to be wonderful and there's no more conflict and everything is going to happen very well. But it's really, yeah, like I said, give people the chance to become the manager that everybody wants to work with.
Okay, and also I guess, well, there could be some obstacles. So probably training them to be an efficient coach could also make them, well, convince them that they're ready to take on this new job, let's say.
Yeah, and that's a good point, huh? Because not everybody feels ready to listen to their team and to determine, well, what are the different strengths that they have. So there's probably for already 15 years, there's trainings that exist that are called manager coach, where you as a manager actually learn what you need to do as a coach and what you need to have in terms of your attitude. So that's one thing. And then obviously you also have the practice of it and you know, like different tools like the Ikigai, which you might or might not be familiar with. I think Antoinette will give it at the end of the session, if I remember correctly. And it's a great tool to ask your people, well, you know, what is it that you're passionate about? What is it that makes you want to work, and so on and so forth. So other than a training, there's also a lot of good tools that are out there that you can use on the spot. Like, you know, in design thinking, there's like an empathy map where you put yourself into the shoes of the customer, but you can also do that into the shoes of your employees. So yeah, there's lots of tools out there.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
and I would like maybe also to add something. Sorry, we haven't. Because I think it's also important to define the manager's role within the company and what it needs into the company, because we could have like incredible coaches, but that are not able to deliver any directions to the people, or, you know, giving this kind of framework that we all need to make sure that we are performing and being impactful in the company. So could be also a nice answer. It's really to define this role in the company and the expectations.
Yeah, definitely, because it's interesting because in some companies you have job description that include being a manager coach, and there you see people sometimes struggle with it because they're not sure what it means. Everybody has their own definition of it, and then you have companies where there's no job descriptions and people do it naturally. And so, and that's actually the ideal situation, that people do it naturally because they have seen their colleague do it and they realize that his team actually worked much better than his own team. And so it was really like a snowball effect. So they've seen it, they've seen somebody do it. And that way they were like, oh, well, maybe I should try that as well. And you could even create best practice sharing groups so that you create a network of managers to share, okay, how does your experience go? There's co-development, which is an approach that's very structured, that works like that as well, where you can really learn from each other and become better coaches. And that's obviously something that is very strong and much more meaningful than just a training. Now, training is always good as well to put a base, but then to put it into practice and to put people in front of their own difficulties is what will bring you further. Because and that's what you do in co-development. So you come with a problem, and then people will advise you as a consultant and ask you questions. Okay, what have you tried, etc. And then they will advise you, and you're not allowed to say anything. You just write it down, and based on that, you will then pick afterwards what works best for you and for your team, and then you will implement it right away, and you will see, does it work, does it not work? And it's really a step further into your development and the development of your team.
Okay, thank you. So, well, let's move on with the next question, which is now more about, well, what to do exactly as a manager. So, well, what should they do? So, with their team, I mean, so how can they get started as coaches? How can they support their teammates, engage them in their development?
Well, I'm a big believer in transparency and honesty. So you could imagine, okay, you meet with your team and say, okay, people, from today on, I would like to try a new approach in terms of your management. I would like to be much more a coach rather than a manager. That's one way. You could also just do it and see how people react. And when I say just do it, I mean have a meeting individually with everybody and ask them, okay, what is it that you enjoy in your job? What are the things that are a bit less interesting? And what is it that you're passionate about? What do you want to achieve over the next months? And really work with them on that, and do it with everybody. And if you do that with everybody, well, it gives you a good cartography. What do you say? Well, it gives you a good idea of what are the different strengths of each one. And very often what you will find is that some things that one person doesn't like, for example, they might need to organize something, and he really is not an organizational person, but he has very good creativity. And the other person has very good organizational skills, but absolutely no creativity. And then if you put those two people together, they can learn from each other, but they could potentially even take a piece of the job so that both of them work in their strengths and work in their things that they love. And that's really what makes it interesting to do it with the entire team and really listen to your people. And that way, then you start and you put people to different assignments that they might have. And then regularly you do ask them, okay, so how is it going? How is your goal going? Have you been able to reach your objective this month? And if you haven't, how come? What were some of the things that that lacked in you, that hindered you to do it. And it's really more of a conversation rather than a, well, you need to do this or that. It's really much more, okay, I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. And I come back to the collective intelligence, because if you look at the collective intelligence, well, if you have a team meeting and you talk about things and you invite everybody to participate and give their input, well, obviously you're much smarter as a group than just yourself or just one team member.
Okay, thank you. And so is this something that, so I guess you could get started maybe in a yearly assessment or quarterly assessment? That could be okay to do it in the same meeting?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's companies that are still having yearly assessments. There's other ones that have abandoned the whole thing of assessments because they really think that it's more of a regular feedback that is impactful. And so, of course, you can have it started in your yearly assessment. But if you then wait until the next assessment, then that's not really development. That's just doing something that HR has said you need to do. But it's not really effective for the employee. But it's a good starting point. And from there, then you need to do almost a daily follow-up or maybe a weekly follow-up. It depends. And it's really, you need to use the real life to coach people on things that they might need to do better or that they might need to improve. So really giving feedback on a regular basis with the intention to help the person to improve, well, that's really the best way. So it's not just in doing 2 performance appraisals per year that you will become a coach. Definitely not.
Okay. Well, in my experience, I always think that it's pretty good to give feedback on the spot, especially when it's quick feedback. And also, well, next to that, it's always good also to have like a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly meeting where you just make a step back. And then, well, just take this time to at least have a reminder, hey, it's time to build a bit of feedback. So just a mix of both on the spot and also something more recurring, just not to forget.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's move on with the next question. So, well, it is. So basically, okay, can anyone become a coach? Any team manager? Or what are the key skills? What do they need to get ready for this job?
Yeah, I think anybody can become a coach if they really want to. And obviously, yeah, there are a few skills. So I think the first one is you need to be very humble. So not always think that you have all the answers. You also need to have good listening skills because it's by really listening to people that you will understand how they function or how they work. You need to really be able to, to take a step back and maybe even question yourself or question the way that you worked up until now, because very often it's a big change for managers to all of a sudden become a coach rather than just giving directions. And that takes some personal insight, and the personal insight, it's not easy for everybody. Now, of course, there are people that have a little empathy, but they have the ability to ask questions and to be transparent. And that's really what is important, because if you're transparent and you tell your people, okay, listen, people, I don't have empathy, so just help me with this because it's something that I would like to develop a bit more. So if you see that I'm being a bit rough, well, you are welcome to tell me. But obviously for that, you need to be okay to do that. And that's really what makes it interesting, because if you are open and honest, well, it's much more powerful than just saying, well, I'm going to be a coach from now, because then you live what you tell them. And if you're open with your weaknesses, then your people might feel comfortable being open with their weaknesses as well. And then you can really develop a strong team. It's the thing that we always say, with the kids, when you tell them, well, don't touch the what is it called, the thing where you put your pots on.
Yeah.
Don't touch it because it's hot, and your kid will not believe you until he touched it himself, and he goes like, it's hot. and you know, or you did it, and then they see you, and it's, I mean, words, actions speak so much louder than words, and that's really what is important. And I had a manager at some point, and she helped me become a manager, and she said, well, you know what, Stephanie, if you care about your people, the rest will come by itself. And that's really a lesson that I still keep. And it's been over 20 years that she told me this, and I think about that every day. If I don't care about people, then I can't develop them. If I care about them, then I can develop them.
Okay. So you also, and to do that, you need also to know yourself, make a step back, as you say. Okay, I think maybe another thing to, well, there are a few topics which are very interesting to study a bit, let's say, to become a better coach, I guess, like understanding also the motivation pillars, let's say. Like, okay, for some people, it's gonna be about what they do. For some other, it's more of a sense of purpose, especially the latest generations. But of course, that's also valid for people from previous generations, and that's not true for some young people as well. But still, for some other, it could be like it's more about the social aspects, like who they're working with. So I think, well, that may be a pretty good thing to also discover what are the pillars for interesting motivations.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really the basis as well, and you get that information through discussions, but you also get it through team events. Like, you know, if you have a team event and you observe your people, then you also understand what is it that motivates them. So it's not all about talking about things. It's sometimes also about observing your people and then thinking about, okay, what is it that he's actually motivated by? Because you might have somebody that is very introverted and that is not extroverted at all. And, you know, he might not ever say anything, but he's very happy because you leave him in that role and you give him the work that he loves doing. But to get that feedback will be an important step. So yeah, you need to really think about, okay, how can I get as much information about my people as possible? And sometimes it's trial and error. And, you know, well, we're all not perfect, and no management of a team will ever be perfect. But if you tried something and it didn't work, well, then say to the person, well, you know what? I tried to motivate you. I tried to give you things that are really interesting to you. But I don't feel that you're motivated. So tell me, what can we do? And really have a very open and transparent communication. And it's really, I mean, it's easier said than done, because you don't want to hurt the person, or you don't want to upset them, or you don't want to put them into a position that they're uncomfortable. But very often there's something underneath that is there anyway. And if you can bring that out on the open, well, that's wonderful, and that's really a very strong basis for moving forward with your team.
Okay, well, thank you, Stephanie. I think we covered many very interesting questions today, and had very interesting answers as well. So, well, we're gonna move on with the webinar. Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Okay.
We're back.
Yes, we are. So that was it for the interview. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's take a look maybe at a few key takeaways. Okay, so the very first thing that we discussed, the reason why managers should be coaches to their teammates, that's because of the proximity that exists between them and their teammates. We mentioned a few other reasons, like also, well, what actions they can take as managers, because they have this vision and where the company is heading to, what are the possibilities if with respect to internal mobility. So the second thing that is pretty important in my opinion is that, well, how to become a better coach as a manager. What could you tell to your managers? What could you do yourself if you're a manager? Well, just think about maybe some managers that you had in the past, managers and what they did with you as coaches maybe. And so think about what you like to have for yourself, okay? So what they did that was pretty successful, what they did that you really didn't like, that's a great way to just imagine and become a better coach, that by imagining what a great coach is just in your experience, basically. And last, well, just like many other things, of course, but becoming a good coach requires skills, and that can be learned. Okay, some of these skills are about the empathy, the active listening. Some others about questioning. You need to know yourself. That's something also that we discussed quite extensively in the webinar. And last but not least, good understanding of motivation is also very effective to become a better coach. So again, if you have questions, just don't hesitate, share them on the chat, okay? So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna have a look into a tool. That's just a tool, but that's a great tool to help managers also accompany their people, coach their people. Because in MySkill Camp, we developed something and released that not so long ago. That is a tool really designed for managers, okay? So let's have a look at this. So as a team manager, you can immediately have a view on everyone into your team, and then you can zoom on someone. And you have this helicopter view that is so important. When you're sitting in a meeting room during a performance appraisal, or when you just get started coaching someone, you just go there. And after you had a discussion, you can immediately register these teammates to some course, the relevant course based on the discussion you just had. And so you have this helicopter view when you can see what they did, what they're doing right now, right in the middle, and what they should do next. What you can also do is have a discussion with the team as a whole. So we talked a bit about collective intelligence. That's a great way to do that. You can just, as a manager, share something, maybe a new article that you found that you've read on Medium that is so great, and you can just share it with your team, and everyone into your team can see that. Of course, you can notify them, and what you can do also is just, well, if you see a very nice behavior, like some people sharing content, you can just comment that, you can add a small reaction, a like on it, so that more people will do it in the future, probably. And on the learner side, that's how it looks. They can really see their team as well and see what you shared with them. And they can, as learners, share what they found themselves. So that's really about this this collective intelligence that we discussed. So that's just one of the many tools that you can find into the learning experience platform of MySkill Camp. So maybe if you want to go further, there's a tool that is available for free, a toolkit that we created. That's a toolkit that you can use as a learning and development manager, maybe, but that you can also immediately share with your managers, or use if you're yourself a team manager, you can use that. So that's a toolkit that was created on Genially, which is another great tool that we recommend at MySkill Camp. So you'll find a link into the slides that we're gonna share after the webinar, and we're gonna put also the link into the description of the recording from that webinar. So just have a look. You may find this pretty useful. If you remember, we just mentioned shortly the Ikigai in the interview. You're gonna learn more about this Ikigai stuff into this toolkit.
Yeah, it is really helpful to ask yourself some questions and ask questions to your teams and make sure that you are able to develop their strengths, and as also as a team and as individuals. So don't hesitate to send us your feedback, because it's always interesting to know if it was interesting for you and how we can actually improve what we do.
Thank you for attending. And have a
Bye-bye.
great day. Bye.